Following a decades-long golden age of peace and prosperity, King Jaehaerys the Conciliator died in 103 AC and was succeeded by Viserys Targaryen, who broke tradition and established precedent to name his sole surviving child, Princess Rhaenyra, heir to the Iron Throne. Yet this decision was undermined when the king's wife died and he married young Alicent Hightower, who birthed 3 boys as potential successors. Though Viserys reaffirmed Rhaenyra's place as heir, a rivalry grew between the Blacks for the Targaryen princess and Greens for the Hightower queen, seeking to make her eldest son Aegon the next king. When Viserys died in 129 AC, the Greens usurped the Iron Throne, declaring Aegon king of Westeros, while on Dragonstone, the Blacks crowned Rhaenyra, beginning the Dance of the Dragon civil war. Seeking allies, the Blacks sent the Queen's eldest son Jaehaerys on successful diplomatic missions to the Vale and North, while her second son Lucerys failed to win over the Stormlands and was killed by Aemond and Vhagar in the dance over Shipbreaker Bay. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra's husband, the king consort and rogue prince Daemon Targaryen, flew to the great fortress Harrenhal, where Sir Simon Strong, the castellan and great uncle of Lord Larys Strong, immediately surrendered their castle and considerable family wealth. Establishing a base of operations, Daemon sought support for the Blacks, rallying the houses Blackwood, Frey, Mooten, Piper, Root, Derry, Mallister, and Vance of Wayfarer's Rest, while others supported Aegon and the Greens, including the houses Bracken and Vance of Atranta. House Tully remained neutral for a time, as the ailing, bedridden Lord Grover Tully was loyal to the Greens, while his son and heir Elmo Tully knew they must eventually support the Queen, regardless of his father's wishes. Gathering their forces, the Blacks defeated House Bracken in the Battle of the Burning Mill, while Daemon, his dragon, and a smaller army captured their lord and castle Stonehenge. To the west, the Blacks won another victory when House Mooten of Maidenpool recaptured Rook's Rest after a costly defeat, forcing the wounded enemy dragon Sunfire to depart. Understanding the strategic importance of the Riverlands, the Greens in the capital sent Aemond and Vhagar to accompany the army of Criston Cole as they passed through the Crownlands toward Harrenhal. Yet upon their arrival, found the enemy entirely gone, with Daemon exploiting the Greens' departure to join Rhaenyra and flying their dragons to capture King's Landing. Winning another great victory against Aegon II, the Blacks now sat the Iron Throne, while Criston Cole's army was stranded in the Riverlands, surrounded by enemies, thus completing the First Riverlands Campaign as a massive victory for Queen Rhaenyra. With the capital under their control, Daemon set off for Maidenpool, where he remained for a time with the Dragonseed Nettles, possibly beginning a romantic affair, though some believe she was actually his illegitimate child, and so their close relationship was that of a father doting on his daughter. Meanwhile, House Lannister of the Westerlands led over 8,000 Green allied warriors to meet Sir Criston and Aemond at Harrenhal, planning to invade the territory in a pincer move from east and south. Yet even without Daemon and Caraxes, the Riverlords would not be deterred and repeatedly threw themselves at the Lannister army, slowly whittling down their forces. It all began when Lord Peter Piper of Pinkmaiden and Lord Tristan Vance of Wayfarer's Rest brought their armies to meet the Lannister host in the Battle of the Red Fork. Though the Lannisters outnumbered the Riverlords, the defenders knew the territory better and repelled 3 attempted river crossings, with the Squire Pate of Longleaf slaying the enemy leader Lord Jason Lannister. Yet this left the invading army under the command of Sir Adrian Tarbeck, who, alongside 100 knights, stripped off their armor, swam upriver, and circled around to attack from the rear, shattering enemy ranks and personally slaying Lord Vance to declare victory. Yet their success came at a heavy, unforeseen cost, as the Red Kraken Lord Dalton Greyjoy took advantage of the situation to declare for Queen Rhaenyra and raid the undefended Westerlands, seizing many of their ships, sinking the rest and sacking Lannisport to steal their great wealth and more than 600 women, including Lord Jason's favorite mistress and illegitimate daughters. Continuing forward, the Westermen faced their next challenge in the battle at Acorn Hall, where the remnants of Lord Piper's host joined the army of Lord Joseph Smallwood. Again, the Westermen were victorious, slaying Lord Piper and his grandson before forcing the Smallwoods back inside their castle. Yet the Lannisters had little respite, as 3 days later, Sir Harry Penny, a previously little-known hedge knight, rallied another Black allied army for a second attack. Again, the Rivermen were defeated, but not before the hero Sir Harry Penny sacrificed his life to slay the enemy leader Sir Adrian Tarbeck. Losing 2 commanders, the battered remnants of the Lannister host fell under the leadership of old Lord Humphrey Lefford, who suffered so many wounds in the fighting he issued orders from a litter. Finally nearing the God's Eye, the Lannister host faced their toughest challenge yet, discovering a fresh and battle-hungry enemy army led by Lord Forrest Frey of the Twins with 200 knights and 600 footmen, the bowmen of Raventree, Red Rob Rivers for House Blackwood with 300 archers, and Lord Roderick Dustin, called Roddy the Ruin, commanding the Winter Wolves, a vanguard of 2,000 grizzled elder warriors seeking to die for the Dragon Queen, thereby following the northern custom of old men leaving home to seek death during winter, thus preserving supplies for their family. Making matters worse for the Lannister host, a second Rivermen army appeared from the south where Sir Pate of Longleaf, or Longleaf the Lion Slayer, led the ragged remnants of earlier battles, in addition to the armies of Lord Bigglestone, Chambers, and Perrin. Facing enemies on 2 sides, Lord Lefford positioned his army with their backs to the lake, and sent ravens to Prince Aemond at Harrenhal, only for each to be shot down by Red Rob Rivers, the finest archer in Westeros. Again, the odds worsened for the Lannisters when more Rivermen arrived the next day, led by Sir Garibald Grey, Lord John Charlton, and the Lord of Raventree, 11-year-old Benjicott Blackwood, bravely facing his first battle. Agreeing it was time, the Winter Wolves insisted they lead the attack, resulting in 2/3 of their men dead or wounded after 5 devastating charges into enemy spearmen that ultimately won the day. Though the Blacks emerged victorious, the battle by the Lakeshore, also called the Fishfeed, was the bloodiest land battle of the entire war, seeing the Lannister army attacked from 3 sides until pushed into the water to be cut down or drowned, resulting in 2,000 deaths, including Lord Frey, Lord Lefford, Lord Bigglestone, Lord Charlton, Lord Swift, Lord Rain, Sir Clarent Crakehall, and the bastard of Lannisport, Sir Emery Hill. The slaughter was such that young Benjicott Blackwood wept upon seeing the heaps of dead. Back in Harrenhal, Criston Cole believed their losses in the Crown Lands and Riverlands meant they must retreat to join the growing Hightower host in the Reach, while Aemond One-Eye considered that the Craven's course, and so they split up, with the army marching south while the regent mounted Vhagar to engage in a one-dragon rampage across the territory, searching for Daemon and Caraxes while destroying everything in their sights, beginning with the burning of Castle Derry and surrounding lands, along with the death of its lord, heir, and warriors. Next fell Haraway Town, Lord's Mill, Blackbuckle, Buckle, Claypool, Swinfer, and Spiderwood, leaving half the Riverlands in flames. Yet as Aemon slated his thirst for vengeance, Harrenhal was undefended and seized by Lady Sabitha Frey, who found the wet nurse and possible woods witch Alice Rivers pregnant with Aemon Targaryen's child. The Freys briefly held the castle until Aemon returned, forcing their retreat. As all this occurred, death, disease, and desertion left 3,600 men under Cole's command while they marched south, and soon lost many more upon learning the River Lords burned every field and village in the army's path, fouled every water source with dead bodies, and engaged in psychological warfare by placing armored corpses from the Fishfeed in a grotesque mockery of a feast. Then 4 days after leaving Harrenhal, the attacks began, with archers hidden in the trees, and raiding parties taking out the rear guard. Terrified of the Rivermen, Cole's soldiers abandoned their post or fled to the enemy. Upon reaching the Crossed Elms, they rode past another feast of corpses, only to learn they were enemy soldiers in disguise when they sprang forth and killed a dozen Greens before anyone knew what happened, a plan thought up by the Mirish sellsword Black Trombo in service to Lord Vance. Leading the remnants of his army toward the Blackwater, Cole found a Riverlord host of 300 knights, 300 longbowmen, 3,000 archers, 3,000 spearmen, and hundreds of winter wolves waiting atop a stony ridge. Upon seeing the enemy, a squire asked, "Who are they?" To which Sir Criston replied, "Our death." Outnumbered at least 2 to 1, Cole sought terms from Sir Garibald Grey, Sir Pate of Longleaf, and Roddy the Ruin, offering to strike his banners in exchange for their lives. But Sir Garibald responded it wasn't possible, as he planned to build a sept from traitors' bones and did not yet have enough. Cole tried to argue a battle would leave dead on both sides, to which Roddy the Ruin replied, "That's why we come. Winter's here. Time for us to go. No better way to die than a sword in hand." Cole made one final attempt by offering to personally fight all 3 men, to which Pate replied, "I'll want 3 more," before signaling Red Rob Rivers and his archers, who shot Cole's belly, neck, and chest. Speaking to a corpse, Longleaf declared, "I'll have no songs about how brave you died, Kingmaker. There's tens o' thousands dead on your account." And true to their word, what followed was the most one-sided battle in the entire war, with the Winter Wolves and Rivermen charging down the ridge to cut down the enemy as they fled in terror. Declaring victory, Sir Garibaldi said, "Today was butchery, not battle," leading the jester Mushroom to declare it the Butcher's Ball. Defeating the Greens in the Riverlands, the remaining Black Allied host, including the Winter Wolves, proceeded south to face the enemy in the Reach, leaving Aemond and Vhagar as the last threat to the territory. Yet it was not long before his reign over the skies was ended by the king consort Daemon Targaryen upon Caraxes the Bloodworm, who parted with Nettles at Maidenpool and spread the word he'd wait for Aemond at Harrenhal. The Prince Regent then arrived flying with Alice Rivers behind him, and upon setting her down, faced his enemy to say, "I hear you have been seeking us. You have lived too long, Nuncle." To which Daemon replied, "On that much we agree," before they each mounted their dragon to engage in the battle above the God's Eye. Aemon's dragon was large and slow, while Daemon's was so quick and agile it struck first, slamming into the enemy, leaving both to grapple, claw, and breathe fire until Caraxes locked his jaws upon the neck of Vhagar, gripping together as they fell toward the lake. The larger dragon fought back by raking open the enemy's belly and ripping off a wing, but Caraxes only bit deeper as they continued to fall. It was at this point, legends say the rogue Prince Daemon Targaryen ensured Aemon's defeat by swinging a leg over his saddle to leap from his dragon with the Valyrian steel sword Darksister, targeting the terrified Prince Regent, unable to remove the chains binding him to Vhagar, allowing his uncle to stab him through his one good eye, moments before they all crashed into the water. Years later, they found the corpse of Vhagar at the bottom of the lake, alongside Aemon's bones still chained to the saddle, with Darksister through his eye. Caraxes survived the battle, but only lived long enough to drag himself ashore, dying near Harrenhal. Daemon's remains, however, were never located, causing some to claim he lived, perhaps taken in by the Green Men on the Isle of Faces, or else may have spent the rest of his days with his beloved Nettles. Thus ended the Second Riverlands Campaign, in complete and total victory for Queen Rhaenyra and the Blacks, though the war continued in the east and south. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Mamoru, the Obscured Hermit Alchemist, Kurgan the Immortal, Griffin Giant's Hammer, and Dane Battlehammer. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.